Welcome to Mental Health Monday. My name is Mick Coyle. Coming up on the programme this week.
I remember when I was about 20 years old, I remember thinking, you could probably be pretty good at this. I didn't have to get up and go. I didn't have the drive and the motivation. And when I was 24, perhaps I'd been through enough by then to go, wait a second, mate, go for it, you know?
Is that how you manage it? That idea that maybe you've got to make it work for you first before it works for anyone else?
I've done so much since that time. I wouldn't believe at 25 years old what I've done since I've been on stage in front of 400 people with a band. You know, I've done all kinds of stuff, recorded EPs, and what I wouldn't have believed what I've been able to do.
And I'll be reminding you how you can make connections with mental health organisations within your community. It's Mental Health Monday.
Hey, welcome to the podcast. My name's Mick Coyle. This is Mental Health Monday. Thanks for checking us out today. Got a great guest on the way today talking about his mental health journey. Of course, that's what we do here on Mental Health Monday. He's also a singer and a songwriter, so there's also a bit of music included. At the end of the podcast, you'll be hearing Simon Taylor's new single, Angel of Mercy. Pot pickers. I'm going to be playing that on Mental Health Monday today. Thanks as ever for everyone checking out the podcast, checking out Mental Health Monday, and listening to the back catalogue of various different conversations we've had, more than 200 episodes that you can check out and listen to. People from all different walks of life, different backgrounds, talking about their mental health experience. Also, some of those great, incredible organisations who are doing incredible things, that are doing their best in really difficult times as well. So the entire back catalogue is available from Mental Health Monday. Of course, it's absolutely free to listen to. If you want to get involved in the show, you can get involved via our social media, the Facebook group, Mental Health Monday. You can get involved there. There's also a bit of a preview and always a bit of a preview of the show on that one as well, plus some video clips too. I'm on Twitter at Mr. Mick Coyle. If you are able to tweet to say you're listening to Mental Health Monday, that will be really helpful as well, just to make sure word is out there on social media too. Stand by then, we've got Simon Taylor's new single on the way at the end of the podcast. But first, let's hear from the man himself. Really interesting story to tell. And there's a couple of parts to his mental health journey. And there's also an autism diagnosis that's thrown into the mix as well. I'm doing spoilers for my own podcast now. But that's to come as well. Details contained as well about where you can check out the work of Simon. And as I say, his new single to come. But he started off by talking about his mental health journey, where it began for him just after the turn of the millennium, when he travelled out to Israel to spend some time there.
Well, Mick, that's perhaps where the whole kind of thing started in a way of all things. I suppose back in the day, people used to go on kind of kibbutzes and stuff like that. And I went in 2000, I would have been 22 at the time. And I suppose I was a bit lost as a person at the time. I didn't really know, I wasn't into music at the time. Well, I love music, but I didn't play any instrument or anything like that. So I kind of went to Israel and I just thought, just to escape as much as a bit of a form of escapism. And I got really heavily into kind of Taoist meditation, which is pretty full-on meditation. I was meditating loads. And basically what had happened was, I found out later, I'd been so stressed before going there. I was so stressed, like a depressed kind of person. I did so much meditation, my mind just kind of went, oh, too much. It just went from one extreme to another. So I had some pretty awful kind of, basically psychotic experiences in Israel. And I had to come back home. I was not in a good way at all. So it was a pretty challenging journey back from Israel, and I had experienced this thing called, I think it's depersonalization, derealization. And so it's the kind of thing where you feel like your body's like not there. It's an odd thing. I've had it for years, to be honest. I'm used to it now. But at the time, I was at Tel Aviv airport, and I was practically wanting to just go up to somebody and say, get me to the hospital, because I'd never experienced anything like this. That if you can't feel your body, so you think there's something really wrong with you. So, but anyway, I managed to get on the plane and got back to Newcastle, and pretty much straight away they're like, wait a second, this guy needs some help, So they put me on this antipsychotic medication, which I'm coming off on Monday, which is an incredible time and speaking to you. Yes, it's remarkable that I'm speaking to you now, because I've been on for 21 years and just about to come off. So yes, incredible timing.
Now, in terms of that, the young guy who travelled out sort of looking to find something of himself. Do you think that you were looking for something which you weren't finding back home? Was that something to do with maybe the culture of growing up in the Northeast, the sort of maybe city that Newcastle can be as well?
That's a very good point, actually, Mick. Yes, very astute, because I think I'm in Newcastle now, and it's to be honest, I suppose I've always like Spain and stuff. A lot of my songs have influences to like kind of Spain and places that. So I guess I've always been an escapist type. Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. I think I've always been a bit of a traveller of mentality, but the problem with me has been I've had the traveller mentality, but not necessarily the capability to do the job. I've been abroad sometimes on my own, and I've got by, but it's been a bit of a heavy experience. So I've had to learn that. For example, like 2 weeks ago, I had a holiday for a week in Almouth, which is 30 miles away. So it's about having the humility over time to learn, well, this is what I can do, and this is what I can't. So I still dream of places like Spain, but I'm starting to become a bit more aware of the limitations, imposed upon me,
Those sort of following years, when you were sort of back at home, if you like, and back in the north, did you just have to just sort of carry on with life at that point? Was there understanding about what you were experiencing and what you had experienced?
That's a good question, Mick. Well, basically what happened was, my mum said to me at one stage, that probably saved my life, but what happened was I went to this place where they had this thing called inverted commas partial hospitalization, which is just a kind of, you would go somewhere, do a bit of art therapy in the daytime, and just go back home. So that was about 5-6 hours a day. So I wrote loads of poetry but for 6-7 years. I started off by writing loads of poetry, it'd be rubbish poetry, but that got me into kind of songwriting and writing songs. So that's how the whole process started. Thankfully, I just had the opportunity at the time. We're talking about the 2000 period to 2008. I had the time to just kind of learn I taught myself songwriting. I just kind of taught myself basically. I didn't read books, and so that was just how I used that time really. So yes, it's just so important to have that kind of help and support, yes.
So was that advised to you, if you like? Was it recommended that actually it wasn't necessarily a clinical route you needed to go down, but actually exploring art, poetry, and then obviously that moved into song, that was actually seen as something which actually would be beneficial to yourself?
That's a good question. Well, I think basically they were kind of prescribing me a lot of medication at times, and a lot of medication. So there was certainly that. I think they flung that at me, but I probably needed it. But I don't know. It was just an option. I probably just got lucky in a way that I went up. It was nearby, but it did me a lot of good. To be honest, I wasn't really fit to function in society in terms of work and stuff like that. I just couldn't do it. I've done so much since that time. I wouldn't believe at 25 years old what I've done since I've been on stage in front of 400 people with a band. I've done all kinds of stuff, recorded EPs, and what I wouldn't have believed what I've been able to do since subsequently. Yes.
Is there anything in the fact that you were looking at that idea, you talk about traveling, or that yearning to get your head somewhere else or get yourself physically somewhere else?
Yes.
Through exploring poetry and artwork, and now obviously music.
Yes.
Is that a journey that you're able to go on that takes you somewhere else, but actually obviously leaves you still in your living room or your bedroom or your music studio?
Well, in terms of that, well, I guess it can be kind of escapist. I mean, there's one song on this EP I'm releasing soon. It's a song called "Going Home," and it's just basically about a journey back from Portugal. And because you just phone all the elements at it, the bass and on the keyboards and everything, you really are having a bit of an adventure in your head. And actually, it's a relevant point because when I was unwell 2 or 3 years ago, when I had a breakdown in 2018, I just basically had a project which was. It was all travel oriented, and I was effectively traveling. Wasn't fit to travel at the time, but it was just a kind of exotic experience in my bedroom, as it were, like recording, go to Spain and these kind of places. So you can travel in your mind, if you see what I mean, in that respect.
Absolutely. Can we talk about the incident you talked about there from 2018? Yes. It came with a separate diagnosis, didn't it?
Yes.
Different to what you'd been told sort of at the turn of the millennium as well. And yes. Sometimes when we speak on the program about diagnosis, for some people it's a relief because it's a label that you can understand. For other people, it's a label that becomes something that hangs around them like a weight.
Yes.
You were diagnosed with Autism Spectrum Disorder.
Yes.
Is that right?
Right. Yes.
Was that something that you were aware of? Was that something that you knew was likely, or was that a surprise that there was something else going on that maybe had shaped some of your previous experiences, but you weren't aware it was there?
Well, it was. I think once they floated the idea, I kind of did a bit of research and thought that sounds quite plausible. In fact, I was almost relieved when I got the diagnosis. It was 2018 when I think somebody was sitting next to the person, and they kind of nudged him for you, like, have you thought about this possibility? And it takes a long time to get that diagnosis and to get checked. But it didn't surprise me in a way. I probably always felt a little bit different. And when the lady told me that I had autism spectrum disorder, she said the next thing she said, it's a disability. And I thought, well, I didn't even know that. I had no notion But I was always like terrible in cars and stuff. I mean, people were saying yesterday, I was chatting to some mum's friends and she was saying, "Oh, you're going to drive?" I thought, well, I'm a terrible passenger. I've always been a terrible passenger in cars. It's just bits and pieces, you know. Like we had a long meal last night. It was about 2.5 hours, and by the end, I was like, I've got to go. I mean, I've just got to go. It's just too intense, you know. So stuff like that, people don't necessarily see it because you hide it, and it probably hid it for years. You know, you're trying to fit in, you're trying to do the best, but it's been a relief. It's been a relief, this diagnosis. It makes a lot of sense to me. So I haven't got to the age of 42. Go, oh, I'm 42 and I've got diagnosed finally. It's like the other way around. I could have been 60. I could have been 70.
But have you flipped it around the other way? Have you thought back? Well, have you thought about your sort of 16 or 18 or 20-year-old self and thought, well, actually, those things were maybe swirling around at the time?
Well, yes.
You know what I mean? That the diagnosis now, have you found that it's sort of shone a light, if you like, on maybe some of your earlier experiences?
You know, Mick, if I sat down enough to to think about it, but I'm surprisingly unself-reflective about that because I'm just so busy with my music. There's one particular incident when I was about 13 when I can remember just being, I felt like I was getting bullied by the class. There's an atmosphere in the class, this guy's a bit different. That's the one thing that comes to mind. But for some reason, I've not looked back and kind of gone, oh, I had it then. I don't know why. Perhaps I don't want to. Perhaps it's a bit challenging to kind of go, that 21-year-old Simon was going through that. And 24, you know, it's a bit heavy when you think in those terms, you know, so you best go, well, I got it now. I mean, I always have, obviously, clearly, I've always have had it. But yeah, I've not sat down and done that. I've just been like, oh, next music, next song.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we'll talk about it. So it's interesting because it's come up quite a few times that sometimes if I've mentioned autism on a mental health podcast,
yes,
sometimes people respond by going, hang on, autism isn't a mental health thing, but actually sometimes the consequences of not being aware can have these sort of other ramifications, which can then lead people down a path, which means their either mental health or well-being is impacted as well, which is why I raised the point. But actually, you know, that's a journey which you can either choose to go on or not. That's entirely up to you. Let's talk about the music as well. So you weren't even playing an instrument or couldn't play an instrument when you first got into your art. So at what point did you think, oh, the poetry is not enough, I need something else?
Well, it was a strange transitional process. When I was about 23, 24, I was doing a lot of writing about music. So I'd write about, oh, this music I heard, and then it kind of just morphed into getting the odd melodic idea. I think it's practically when I picked up the guitar again at age 24. I picked up the guitar and it had always been there, you know. So even when I played a bit when I was about 19, 20, just a very haphazard kind of half-buttocks kind of way, you know, but I did have a facility. And I remember when I was about 20 years old, I remember thinking, you could probably be pretty good at this. I kind of knew, but I just didn't have the get up and go. I didn't have the drive and the motivation. I kind of knew, perhaps deep down, I thought, I've probably got some talent at this, because I could just change chords or just come up with stuff. And when I was 24, perhaps I've been through enough by then to go, wait a second, mate, go for it, you know? And I pretty much have since then. It's like something flick in a switch, and since then it's always been like that, and perhaps it always will be. You know, yeah.
Have you found that's sort of given you a focus in life, as in that I've always got the guitar, I've always got the music, that can be a big part of who I'm going to be going forward?
Never a truer word spoken, Mick, because to be honest, I had a really rough time in 2018. I had a breakdown, terrible way, but I've got such a stockpile of songs, loads of songs that I'm really happy with, you know, that I'm looking forward to sharing the world. So it's got me through. There's no two ways about that, you know, like no one like, crikey, well, I've got to do this kind of music, you know. And so yeah, it's saved me, you know. You could go as far as saying that, you know. It's been a bizarre gift from, because, you know, my other diagnosis is schizoaffective disorder, and basically I would imagine there's a correlation between that diagnosis and my musical ability in a strange sort of way. I didn't seem to be able to do it until I had this diagnosis. So I don't know. There definitely seems to be a link between my mental illness and the music. So yeah, you've just got to take that for this move.
I think though, but I think there might be a lot of people though who get a diagnosis of whatever it is, and can't find an outlet, or can't find a thing, a groove that they can get themselves into as well. And obviously when you found that you had this thing, and for some it might be, you know, taking up pottery, and for some it might be playing five-a-side football, but you found something there that you could do. but actually also that people have responded to as well. And I guess that must be a really interesting element of it, that when you mentioned playing, to crowds of people, playing in bands with that sort of sense of community that comes with that as well. That must be hugely sort of must make you sort of feel 10 feet tall to be able to do that sort of stuff.
Well, I guess it's funny, it should do, but sometimes you can have the opposite effect. I did a gig, I had a headline gig at this O2 in Newcastle in 2018. My name was on the thing, and somebody said, "Oh, your name's up there. You should be proud." And I was like, "Whoa, it's a bit heavy." It can have the opposite effect. It's obviously being in the spotlight brings its own challenges. So it's a mixed thing. In a way. How it is with social media, and just generally nowadays, the whole notion of drawing attention to yourself. So there's a part of me that's, of course, like lots of musicians, we want this, we want that, let's not deny it. But at the same time, I do meditate a lot, and I do a lot of things, because I think, as you say, 10 foot tall, it's very much a symptom, the syndrome of musicians and singer-songwriters that, to get big egos and kind of go off on a trip and stuff like that. So, and I'm just the same, by the way. Of course I am. But I do meditate and stuff like that, just because the whole thing, the idea of having a mental health problem and then going into the social media world with music and putting yourself out there, it's quite a combination of factors. So I find trying to have some kind of spiritual practice, is what I call it myself, meditation, prayer, is helpful for me, just to be a better person. Really, that's what I want to be. I want to be a decent person. Yeah.
Is that how you manage it? That idea that maybe you've got to make it work for you first before it works for anyone else?
I think that's a fair comment. I think it's a fair comment, because if it's not working for me, I don't see how it can work for anyone else. I think it's just about having a certain integrity, I guess, about yourself. And it's difficult because a lot of musicians have a kind of persona, and it's difficult. That's the whole point of the exercise, in a way, So it brings its own challenges, and particularly, basically in 2018, 2019, I changed my name to this Isla Soledad, it was called, which is the Solitude Island, which is actually a place in the Falklands, because I was struggling to kind of I'm call it spade a spade. I'm not exactly like Sam Fender, put it that way. But to play the gig with me was really good, of course. And so just going under your own name can provide challenges, in a way. But that's me, Simon Taylor. That's what you're getting. That brings its own challenges in a way. Yeah.
Just tell us about. So you got a new EP out and a new single as well. The single's called Angel of Mercy. We're going to play it at the end of the podcast as well, if that's okay. We can play some of it, and then people can buy and download the rest of it, because that will come your way. It's always interesting, I think, when people have got, or write specifically and deliberately about mental health and their own mental health, because I think unknowingly, I think a lot of artists for a lot of years have actually been doing the same thing, if you like. They write about how they feel, they write about how the world around them makes them feel, and they use that as a way of comprehending really their place within it. But I think this is part of the stigma around mental health, that I think a lot of artists probably wouldn't have even thought that that's what they were doing, that mental health was such a huge part of so many different artists over so many decades, probably. And yet the mental health thing has always been sort of on the back burner, that people never talked about it. But if you said Kurt Cobain was talking about exactly the same sorts of thing, nobody ever goes, oh yeah, and that, Nevermind was about his mental health and about, but you probably could make those assumptions, couldn't you? You could probably say all of those things, but actually you're front and center with the way you talk about it. This is something which is talking about mental health, which shows is a reflection of where we are now, that there's more awareness and understanding that when people put their heart and soul into something, of course it's about their mental health, because that is the very crux of what our mental health is all about.
Yes, that's exactly right, Mick. And I suppose it's always been a case that I've sung about these subjects, but I had to kind of, like I say, stockpile this material, and I just thought, well, this is relevant to who I am, and I've just kind of put them together into this particular project. But yes, of course, there's some fantastic musicians who've had these issues, incredible survivors, like people like Rocky Erickson. He probably had schizophrenia, really bad diagnosis, and I believe he's still with us now, gigging probably out there in Texas. So very inspirational. Brian Wilson, God bless him. He couldn't tour recently because of his issues. He's 79, but I've just so much respect for these guys who are about 80 years old and great musicians, and they've been through hell and high water, and they're going strong and geniuses. So much respect for these people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing is that some of the stuff, some of your experience that you've had there, that may have been going on in the background of some of those people as well. But all we do is sort of either the media or as members of the public, we just label them, don't we, as a tortured genius.
Yes,
so like,
yes.
no matter what happens to them, it was almost like written in the stars. Whereas actually, it's not. It's a very real and it's a very lived experience that those people had.
That's exactly a good way to put it. Yes, I know. It's just I suppose from my own experiences, it's given me more empathy for human beings, you know, like, because I just look at somebody, you don't, I'm not saying perfect, but I'm sure you're the same, Mick, you know, people do experience as well. You just kind of have a notion that they're probably a lot more fragile, a lot of people, than I'd like to make out to others, you know, like, not saying I'm saying like that, but I guess, yeah, there's just that notion that I've been there, experienced it, I know it's like, you know, if you see what I mean, yeah.
You mentioned the stockpile of music. I like that. The idea that there's like you have this weaponry you go to. You're right. Which one can I need? But I imagine if you're whichever artist you are, each song is written in a particular stage in life.
Yes.
Do you ever empathize with yourself when you pick a story and go, oh, what was I going through then? Or I can see what I was doing there. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Can you place yourself, oh yeah, this is something from 2008, or this is where I was having this experience, or this was part of the break. How do you empathizing with yourself isn't quite the right phrase, I don't think, but do you see the point I'm trying to make?
Well, it's very much a kind of diary. Oh yes, so you can pretty much get, I mean, I've got folders that I'm quite organized in my autistic style, the whole thing. So I've got like folders and dated and stuff like that. And you can pick it out and go, yes, well, that's where my head was at the time. And you realize, I suppose, you know, kind of how fragile you were back at the time in certain ways. You know, you look at the lyrics, it's all in black and white, you know. I think that's one that comes across as just, yeah, I think that's probably the word I'd use, actually. Yeah, you like think, oh yeah, me from the north, you know. But you look at the lyrics and it's just like, yes, it's yeah, clearly there's a lot of fragility, I guess, in some of the lyrics. Yes, I think so. Yeah.
You mentioned Sam Fender before. He's got a new record out now, and actually a big focus on that is about maybe some of that toxic masculinity that can come from growing up in a northern town. Have you heard that record, and do you empathize with his experience there? Slightly different generation.
I have a lot of respect for Sam Fender. Like I said, I did a gig 8 years ago, and you could just evident he was the real deal. It was just evident then. He was really good, you know, and I've a lot of respect for him because he came from a tougher background than me, less opportunities. I've come from more of a barely lower middle class, but I've had more opportunities. I've been to university, I've been to college. Sam's had a tough road in life, and I've got a lot of respect for him, definitely. In terms of that particular song, I don't know. It's the Dead Boys song. That's a severe kind of title. I don't know. It's difficult. I don't know how I could write a song like that myself. I don't know, but I just can only write from my own experiences, you know, like in that respect. But he's probably more observational. I guess maybe I'm more of a solipsistic type.
In terms of where your music sort of takes you, do you find yourself in a different place after you've had a session playing music, or do you find yourself building up and like, right, I need to go and find a guitar now, I need to go and sit in the studio, I need to write a song? Do you find that sort of urge, if you like, to be creative?
That's, well, you know, to be honest, the most honest answer I can give to that question is the ideas come to me in the middle of the night. You know, I'm fast asleep, your brain's switched off. And there's so often, so much so that I bought a Tascam recorder to have by my bed. And because the ideas, I generally come to me at 5 o'clock in the morning, I'll get a melody in my head, often do, it's generally the way. So I used to have my phone over there, that's no use me saying over there, obviously, in this context, but I would have my phone across the room, and I'd have to unplug it and then turn it on, and then it messing around. So I found it's best just to have a phone, a Tascam recorder by my bed, and I get so many ideas in my sleep, in my dreams and stuff like that. I've had incredible experiences, almost like it's in dreams, you know. I'd actually describe it. And there's once, for example, I got a song in my head and I might burst into tears straight away because it was so profound what experience. So I've had some remarkable dreams. There was once this woman on stage and she was singing, and it was just amazing experiences, you know. This is why when I talk about kind of spirituality and stuff like that, I mean, what is happening there, you know, as far as I'm concerned, what is going on, that is, you know, I'm getting that stuff through, you know. So for me, something's going on in that realm, if you see what I mean. That's just my, I'm not kind of going out there saying, oh, believe in the Lord and anything. That's not the way I go about things. But from if anyone experienced what I have in terms of 5 o'clock in the morning, getting all these ideas and dramatic kind of dreams and stuff like that, you think, crikey, well, there's got to be more to life than just you know, go to the service station and getting a pasty, you know.
But I think it's interesting, isn't it, that like, because your dreams, I think I always get the sense that sort of just everything that happened in a day just get basically just mashed into one thing, and then they all just come, and they come out in random orders and they don't make sense. It's quite profound then that the stuff you pick up or things that come out actually almost filter themselves into something which is actually usable. Because I'll often have an idea at 5 o'clock in the morning and I'll wake up and I'll be like, why on earth did I think that was a good idea?
Yes.
And I don't know why that's just the way I think my brain works. But when you do that and you've got, I've written a song and then there was a woman on stage. Have you ever like woken up and you've just written down like My Heart Will Go On and it's just Celine Dion or something like that? Or is it always like an original thing?
Well, yeah. There was once. This is again, you know, and working in a spiritual kind of sense. There was once I woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and the words "like an angel" came to me. Like those 3 words, like an angel. I was like an angel, you came down to me, like an angel, you helped to relieve this fear and misery. And the lyrics just kind of came to me like that, and just in my sleep. So why is an angel? Is it an angel in the room? You know, I don't know. Maybe I'm just a bit crazy in that respect, but you know, I just. It's fascinating. I could talk about it for too long, you know, to be honest. It does interest me, the whole thing.
And actually, you mentioned Angels. Angel of Mercy is the new single, which is out now as well. Just tell us about the sort of the theme that's contained within the song.
Well, Angel of Mercy, I guess, in a way, it's me kind of asking for some spiritual help at the time. This was about 2015. I wrote the song back in 2015. So at the time, I mean, as I've mentioned, I do prayer and meditation. So I've kind of almost answered my own question in the 6 years since I wrote the song. I haven't had a breakdown in the meantime, which probably forced me to do so. So at the time when I wrote the song, I was based where I am now, and there's an element to the song, particularly when the video is going to be available to see. There's an element of urban alienation, being in an environment where I think the video will convey that as well. Being overwhelmed by sensory information and just being in quite a tough city situation. I guess that's what I could describe, you know, just feeling overwhelmed by city life. So there's mental health and mixed in with that. So maybe people can relate to just hard city life, you know, if you want to call it that. Yeah.
The sort of the Angel of Mercy that you're calling out for, that you're looking for. Does I don't think you can spoil a song, can you? When you put spoilers, but does the angel arrive, or have you found your own angel of mercy, if you like?
That's a very good question. Yeah, the song ends on a kind of cliffhanger in that sense. So that you know, people listen to the song, but it doesn't answer the question, which I quite like in a way. But it's a question. It ends in a question. But in terms of my own life, I'm getting there, I think. I think to be honest, I was brought up Catholic. I'd probably end up going down that route again in due course. But yeah, it's whatever gets you for the night, really, to be honest, in life. You know, that's the way I feel about it. You know, I just think whatever works for you. You know, I think, for example, I am a Catholic. And that's how I was brought up, and it's difficult. I think some people can break free from that, and they can run for the hills, and I respect them. They can break free from the rigid kind of stuff they've been brought up with. They might be, I was brought up Muslim, but I'm going this way because I've got an open, expansive mind, and I can. But some people, such as myself, I think my mind's quite rigid. So if I was brought up Catholic, it's like, I'm sorry, mate, you haven't got much leeway there. That's what you are, and I think that's what I've understood in a way. I'm not kind of so remarkably rebellious that I could just float off or I'll just go into some Oriental philosophy. My mind's not that flexible. So that's where I've kind of go, well, we'll just look back into this. Yeah.
In terms of the single, where can people check it out? Apart from when I play it in just a few moments' time, where can people download it and show support for the work you're doing?
Yes, Mick. So if people go to Simon Taylor 1, and that's the number 1, so simontaylor1.bandcamp.com, it'll be available to listen to and download there. And if people want to check out facebook.com/SimonTaylorSong. And finally, I'm going to go away now and update simontaylormusic.com, which is my website, and it'll all be there. And as it should be ready to consume. Yes.
So that's Simon Taylor 1, if people are using the Bandcamp format, which is a website which has got loads of great music artists on there as well. Simon Taylor Song on Facebook.
Yes, that's right.
And the website one more time.
Also, yes, it'll be simontaylormusic.com.
Excellent. Which by the time people are listening to this will be fully updated. Absolutely.
Yes.
Brilliant stuff. Sam, thank you so much for that. Best luck with sort of sharing that as well. Obviously, we've been in a difficult time in terms of being able to get out and about and performing. Are there live performances potentially sort of coming around? Have you got things in mind to get you back up on stage?
Yeah, there's an EP launch February the 11th, which is going to be a nice venue called Bobix, which is in Newcastle. It's funny name. It's the name of a Russian dog, I believe. But so that's the next gig I've got lined up. I've done some recently, but yes, at the moment I've got another single coming up very soon. There's a lot going on in the release world. So if people particularly want to check out the Facebook page, I'll be making a lot of unnecessary noise, I'm sure, soon. Yes,
that's great. We'll put links in all our social media feeds for Mental Health Monday, and we wish you all the best, Sam. Thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate you speaking to us. Good luck with the single, the rest of the EP, and everything you got planned for the new year too. And I'm sure we'll catch up again soon.
Thank you for having me, Mick. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
So Simon Taylor was this week's guest on Mental Health Monday. We promised to play you his new single. Here it is, Angel of Mercy.
Darkness and shadows, lurk in my mind. Glimpses of heaven, seem hard to find. Cars pass like thunder, deep through the night. Under the covers, I shake inside. Is it me who's sleeping? Is it me who's keeping all these dreams repeating, nightmare visions in my mind? Is it me who's pleading in the night for meaning, when the lonely feelings come for me like silent night? Angel of mercy, hold me tight. Take these memories off my mind. Save me from bedlam. Show that there is meaning somewhere in life. Is it me who's sleeping? Is it me who's keeping all these dreams repeating, nightmare visions in my mind? Is it me who's dealing in my own dark secrets? Is it time for healing, or am I condemned for life? Try as I might, I cannot take the light. I hide inside the visions in my mind. my plight. Or fight.
I hope you've enjoyed this week's podcast. Thanks for checking out Mental Health Monday. My name is Mick Coyle. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Mick Coyle. You can also find me, Mick Coyle, on Facebook as well. Don't forget, if you want to speak to somebody about your mental health, you can do so. The Samaritans, free to call on 116 123. You can find mental health services where you are. Just look for the Hub of Hope, type in your postcode, it'll find those mental health services close to you. And for support in a crisis, you can